welcome to episode 111 of my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond. We're on our new night. We've been the last 3 or 4 shows. We're on Wednesday nights now. For years we were on Tuesday nights, but it just makes more sense now with my schedule change here at work, time change, to be on Wednesday nights. So hello, Terry from Iowa. Terry's the first one to check in tonight. I'm sure we'll have a lot of people watching. I didn't advertise this one very well, but it's the Congress recap. So you've been watching that probably on Facebook. I love it this time of year. Everybody's posting their candid shots and, of course, their win photos from the photographer from Cody from the National Congress. Those are good pictures. So you've been seeing almost every winner that's at the show has been on Facebook pretty much. So this is just going to be a recap and my take on it. TC Impulsive-Guido's on the show tonight. He must learn how to use the keyboard, so that's good. Of course, that's Tracy down in Florida. There's another Iowan, Dean Damon. We got big news about Dean tonight and on the list. So we are going to talk about the leading sires and leading breeders list tonight. So, and of course, the Damon family is a big part of that. So I don't have a lot of pictures tonight. I do have pictures for our sponsors, but you can go on POA owners and everybody's Facebook pages and see all their win photos. So that's cool. I wanted to thank the Horse Show Tracker. I'd never met the people that put that together, but that's helped me immensely the last couple years when I do the show results and I don't have to bug the office anymore. I don't have to have all the stud books. As you know, they raised, maybe you don't know, but they raised the prices of the stud books from kind of a minimal to like 30 or 35 so somebody like me who uses them all the time, that's kind of tough. So I'm missing some of the latest stud books, but I usually get it done through things, through sources and stuff. But this year I didn't have to bother the office, so that was good. We got a lot of people tuning in. There's Tracy. Hi, Tracy. I was picking on you about your stallion logging in. So Kendra, another Iowa person. Rosalind Spencer Biggs is here from Oklahoma. All right, so I do have a great sponsor tonight. Of course, Jackson's Auto Family is always one of the sponsors because we're here at Studio J in Enid, Oklahoma at Jackson's Auto Family, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Come join the family. But we also have the Kate family as sponsors tonight, Ryan and Stephanie Kate, and, of course, Riverstone Veterinary. There's a mixed animal veterinary, started in 2012, and they've been doing some great things down there in Texas. So, of course, that's their 2 young boys there, Cole and Landon. And, of course, the Kate family, I don't think they have a bad POA. All the POAs they use and their connection with Shannon Sucre. Of course, they've raised some great POAs in the short time that they've been breeding. So they're mounted on Bad Girl Phase and SLS Dreams Come True. Of course, she's a 2-time grand champion mare and multiple-time champion in this year. Again, she won the broodmare class. Bad Girl Phase is a champion as well and a champion producer. So her baby won this year, and we'll see her pretty quick here. So here's one of the yearlings they got on the road with Lindsay from Arizona. This is Breaking All the Rules. You might remember him from last year. I seen him out in Utah. He's a pretty cool yearling gelding. SLS Awesome All Night. Shannon's homebred stallion, who's now gelding, but they're still using. They still have some frozen semen on him. And then Bad Girl Phase, the mare that we just seen, of course, was bred by Kristen Fears. And then here's Whiskey, Must Be the Whiskey, I think. Yep, Must Be the Whiskey by Whiskey and Diamonds. And, of course, Bad Girl Phase again. And then here is Acting Up, and Ryan. They won the Weanling Fillies. This year there was some nice babies, wasn't there, at the Congress this year? And then here is Shannon and Ryan, their partnership in the POA program. They've really produced some tremendous POAs, and here's the mare and foal champion, so Bad Girl Phase, and then of course her baby filly Acting Up, who won the filly class. So, and then here's the boys again. Got to give them their credit. They keep their parents young, chasing them around. If you've seen them at the shows, both good showers though, good exhibitors, Cole and Landon. So again, thank you to the Kate family from Texas and Riverstone Vet from Texas for sponsoring tonight and next week. Next week's episode is going to be About the candidates, I'm calling it 5 for 15 as long as we get all 5 to get on here. So far, 4 of them said they would. So unless you've been living in a box under a rock or something, there is an election like there usually is every year in POAs. There's only one that's contested. There's 2 people from the Midwest that's running. Otherwise, the other 3 regions, they're just running unopposed. But we still want to talk to them just to see, and it's just a good way to meet people. I know some of these people have been around a long time, and some of them not as long. So it's cool to have a platform like this to talk to people. So that'll be next week. So we'll be doing that at 6:30 p.m. It's July 30th on a Wednesday, and 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and that will be live. And like I said, I hope we get everybody signed up. So far, I have 4 out of the 5. That episode's going to be sponsored by the Kate family as well and Riverstone Vet. And then the next week after that, so 2 weeks from tonight, is going to be a great episode. Scott and Charlene Shingleton, they've devoted a big portion of their life, a lot of sponsorships and a lot of time. They're some of the hardest working people I know. And of course, Scott's the sitting president right now. Charlene's very active in POAs, showing, of course, and behind the scenes. And they're going to be our guests 2 weeks from now. So the Shingletons from Indiana, and that's sponsored by Hoof Pros from Texas. So actually Hoof Solutions, and Pat Burton's one of the owners of that company. Of course, we all know Pat, and he's a world famous or nationally famous, whatever. I think he's famous as a farrier, and that's one of his companies is Hoof Solutions. So they're the sponsor for 2 weeks from now, which will be, I believe, the 6th. Check your calendars, but August 6th. Again, same time, same place, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you'll want to tune into that. It'll be 7:30 Eastern Time, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of Indiana people watching that episode. So tonight we're going to talk about, like I say, not a lot of pictures. We're just going to kind of give credit to all the people that spend money and work their butt off going to the Congress. You know, there's shows. There's a bunch of shows coming up this weekend, 4 different states. There's the big Futurity. Of course, we have the East World, West World, the regionals and all that. But to me, Congress has always been the baby. It's the granddaddy of them all, because you know, it is the big show. It's not as big as it used to be. Class-wise, it is. And competition-wise, it's tough as it ever been. In halter, on the first day on Friday, you can see all those tough, and then the exhibitors, they're working as hard as ever, and the trainers and the breeding, you know, and we're a little more specialized now. We got some pleasure horses. We got all kinds of different. We still have a lot of good halter horses, a lot of good gamers, English horses, hunt seat type horses, all types of POAs. So it's still our premier show, and you could tell this year if you got to see it on the Walton broadcast. Thanks to Paycom, you got to see that hopefully at home or at work. I know I watched it almost every day that I could here. One day I missed, but because I can't be there every day, even as a director, I can't stay over there every day. And anyway, if you watched it or was lucky enough to be there live, you can see just the quality of animal that the breeders are producing, and the families and the trainers and the adults that are showing these POAs how hard they work to win these classes. So tonight, when I talk about if I say some numbers and it doesn't jive with your numbers at home, it's because I don't count some of the classes, but that's not that important tonight. We're just going to talk about some of the horses and some of the things that happen. Like in halter, there was some cool things that happened, like the full siblings that won. You know, you had Casey Henderson and her grand champion Gelding and grand champion Stallion. They're full brothers, so that's a pretty cool deal. And then their full brother, Take Another Look, who's already made history as being a grand champion Stallion in the past, and then a grand champion Gelding. He was reserve grand. So it was all in the family there for grand and Gelding. Grand Gelding and reserve grand Gelding were full brothers. They don't look exactly alike. They're not even colored alike, but you can tell the quality's there. And then their little brother, who's actually the middle brother, Rhinestone, or what's his name? Fortunate Son. Rhinestone Cowboys, the Gelding. Fortunate Son's the Stallion. This was his second year to win, so that's pretty cool. Last year he won as a 3-year-old. This year he came back One is the small age stallion. That's only the third time that's happened, only the second time in the modern era. When I say modern era for the newer people, I mean 86 and up, when the height changed to 14 hands or 56 inches. So it's only the second time that's happened, third time ever since 1959. That was the first Congress in 1959. Of course, it was called the International Show. Back then, it was only about 2 days. I had the show program at the show to give to my friend Jeremy Stebbins from Kansas, because he's from near Hutchinson, Kansas. They live in Sterling, and he's a big collector of POA stuff like me and a historian. So I had 2 of the 1962 show programs. If you've seen the cool show program this year with Allie's memorial on the cover, well, POAs have done one every year since 1959, and I have a lot of them. And I had 2 copies of the one from Hutchinson, Kansas. The important thing about that show was it was the first show not to be in Mason City, first international. So 59, 60, 61, those 3 years were in Mason City, and then they branched out of their hometown there and where it was founded, and they went to Hutchinson, Kansas. A lot of important things happened in Hutchinson, Kansas. A lot of people were members from Hutchinson and still are. So 62, you'll see that, and we'll maybe do a cover episode of all the show covers that I have. I don't have all of them, but I have quite a few of them. So with all that history, that was pretty cool that those brothers did that well. And then, of course, the mare that won was causing some chaos, and she won as a baby. So to come back and win as a grand champion mare later in life, that's always cool to watch a baby do that. She also won youth mares, so she picked up 4 wins there. And it was just cool to all the halter classes. I thought, there was a couple there wasn't some in a few classes, only a couple, medium stallions, and I think, was it small geldings or maybe another one, but there was a few halter classes, but there was some very tough halter classes and some big ones. The breeders classes, everyone in the stands agreed. Mare and foal, get a sire, and produce a dam. Them were all 3 bigger than normal, and of course, again, the quality was there. So some of the horses that did real well, of course, Take Another Look. He won in halter, and then he won classes in riding, so he picked up a lot of wins. Causing some chaos, as I said, she picked up quite a few wins. Call Your Mama, a young filly, 2-year-old mare, she won quite a few classes. So she won in halter. Of course, she was your junior champion, and then she won multiple classes in performance. So that was cool. DK Dreaming of Pizzazz, of course, he always does good. The Chocolate Doctor, him and his full sister did well again, as they always do. Super Unexpected picked up a whole bunch of wins. So had some great POAs there. There's 3 pages of winners of POAs that won classes. The Pony Farm had a great show. The Heartbreaker is bred by them, as well as the one I just mentioned, Super Unexpected. Heartbreaker won a bunch of classes, 5 actually. The Rainbow Kid, bred by Jackie Guthrie, ridden by Diana Peaton, he picked up a bunch of classes too. And Just Plain Cool was ridden. Of course, Ella Overson from Edmond, Oklahoma, she had a show to remember, 9 and under. Of course, we have all pretty much known Ella since she was a baby, an infant, and now she's a young lady still competing in the 9 and under. I believe she won, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but I think she won on 5 different POAs at this show. For 9 and under, I'm sure that's never happened ever. I can say that's never happened as a historian. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but she won 9 classes that I count on. Red Solo Cup, that good mare. That's the Goldmaker daughter. And then Just Plain Cool, she won one of the classes with Take Another Look. And then the Caribbean Kid, who her grandma is the breeder of, a Kiddo Tough son, one of the last Kiddo Tough babies out there showing. And then, of course, her Gaiman mare, the JKB horse. I can't find it right now, but I will. Tough Cookie Bar, JKB Tough Cookie Bar, picked up about 4 game classes. So the games is another thing that's kind of cool to mention, because it's dominated the last so many years, and it's always been this way. There's a handful of gamers even 20, 30 years ago, but maybe there was more back then when there was 400 ponies at the show, or 350. There was less than that this time, but you had a lot of the same horses, like Irresistible Rhythm won more than one, about 3 Bees, Zippos, Legend Look, and then JB Chase Kid Profit 1-1, Salty Diamond Chips, multiple winner, MRF Out of the Blue. These are all games now. Wendy's Lace and Chrome, JKB Tough Cookie Bar, as I mentioned. True Obsession's always a great gamer, and 2D's Kusa Rojo. They all won just game classes, and I got them listed right at the end. And then there was a few others that had won other classes too, so I can't tell if they won game classes, but I know horses like Red Solo Cup won other classes, and then of course won in the game. So you got just a handful of POAs that really dominate that last day of Friday of the game. So that's another cool thing about POAs. You know, we start on Friday and halter, and we go all the way through all these events that POA has, and now ranch. Ranch is turning out to be tremendous, like it is all across the country, and it's going to be good for POAs too. I believe it already is. And then we go all the way till the next Friday, so over a week of showing, with ending in game. So starting in confirmation and ending in Gymkhana or speed events, and in between, lunge line to everything else, lead line, costume, all kinds of stuff, jumping, pleasure, reining, a lot of the big futurities. You know, we have some cool futurities out there. So, of course, the McLaren futurity, just a Southern thing, and Rachel Frank from Indiana won that. And then in versatility, Kinley Chambers from Oklahoma, and Why I'm Broke, another good Damon bred POA, won the versatility competition. So it was cool to see RPR's Impulsive Superman in that class, a stallion, and he did well. He won the two pleasure classes and took reserve in it, and I think he was a last minute addition, so that was pretty cool to see. Of course, got a brand new girlfriend, won a couple classes. She's bred by the Dammons, he is. And then between boyfriends, of course, rocked it. Counting the open classes, I think it was 14 or 15 classes. The way I counted it was 10, but again, that's fine. I just don't count the open classes. There's a few other classes I don't count either. But again, I've said this before. I was 20-some years old when 20 or 21 when I started this all by myself. So there was really no guidelines or rules when I started this. In 1993 it was, before the 93 International. So let's see, who's some other one? Did I mention most of the ones that Red Solo Cup won a bunch, like I said, between girlfriends. I said the gamers. RPR's Impulsive Superman did well as a sire. Andy did well as a show horse. He won 4 classes, all in performance. So just a lot of ponies there, a lot of prefixes from different parts of the country too. That was good to see. Let's look at some of the comments here. I'm so glad you took this task on. Yeah, well, I was pretty young when I took it on, Trace. I didn't know if I was going to continue it. So again, some of you guys know the history of it and some of you don't, but in 1993, I decided to do this, and I just did it from 1980 up because I had that information. I had those magazines, and then I had the stud books. So that's how I did. I looked up the winners, and then I looked up the sire and the breeder. A lot of people now say, why didn't you look up the dam? Well, now, you know, there'd be so many dams, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. I wish I would have in a way, but, you know, there's so much to update every single year. So every year since 93, counting 93, because I did it before that show, I've had to update it every year. So sometimes I've been a little lax and I've had to update 2 years in a row. Like just last year I had to do that, but this year I got it done within the next Friday. So last Friday I had it updated. So it's always cool to see the updates and see the list. So speaking of that, we're gonna go ahead. Tracy, if you want to talk about that, you can. The Rebecca Trout winner was really special if you want to talk about that. And if somebody wants to talk about the Mackenzie G, I wasn't there during those two things, and I didn't get to watch them at night because I was already home. I didn't watch it on my phone. So if somebody wants to elaborate on those, you can. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over to the screen. And again, I want to thank our sponsor for tonight, the Kate family from Texas, Ryan and Stephanie, and their business, Riverstone Veterinary in Texas. And of course, they're 2 young men right there. They're 2 young boys. You've all seen them at shows, especially Congress. They're running around. They're always well mounted on good horses. So That's, of course, Cole and Landon Kate. All right, we're going to flip over. Sorry, boys, but we're going to flip over here. So keep in mind these lists here that you're looking at on the screen right now, these are copyrighted. They've been copyrighted since 1993, and they're updated by me just making a mark now to keep them copyrighted a year. So they're copyrighted 1993 and they're copyrighted 2025. So please do not make copies without my permission or spread them on Facebook or any other social media without my permission. And you can go ahead and read some of the comments too why we're doing this, because I did ask people to talk about some of the stuff that happened. So why that's happening, I'll just start talking about these lists a little bit. Of course, this is my baby. This is my passion. I never had kids of my own, but I raised a lot of POAs for a short time, 20, 30 years, and I raised these lists, created them and raised them, so they're very special to me. So we're going to look at these right now. So the big news coming out of this year, if you can read this on the screen here, is the Damon family. I have it represented there with D for Dean. Of course, his mother started him in POAs, and then now Dean's son Corey is still raising POAs, but they became the #1 breeder this year of International Show National Congress class winners. They had a good show this year. I believe it was like 14 wins that I count. And sorry for the notebook pages turning here. Yep, 14, one in halter and 13 in performance. So with that 14 total, that moved them from second place to first, surpassing the Steels from Alabama, KS's, who were first for a long time. Of course, the Carr Family Ranch, they picked up a halter win this year with Santee Classic Cowboy from Texas. He's a few spot son of the Carr's Santee Classic. They're a good stallion out there in South Dakota. So they moved up another halter win, but they did go down to, they were in third place because Damon's were in second place. So Puffenberger picked up a few with Salty Diamond Chips and been showing for 60 years. Well, that's good. How long have you been breeding, Dean? Probably that long too, so close. So, and they're still breeding strong, the Damons. So a lot of their stallions are on the front page of the stallions list, sires list when we get to that. So Doc Demers did pick up a win or two, but he stayed in 5th place. Pat Patrick hasn't had any wins in a while. That's the Suncrest people from California. More big news here. Pat and Janelle Burton. I contacted a few people and kind of asked their opinion because these lists are, basically sanctioned by the POAC. They were voted on by the board of directors way back when, and it wasn't just something mild that they talked about. It was before I was on the board the first time, so it's been a while, but they talked about it for quite a while, and they agreed to, give recognition to these lists as that they're POAC official. So I talked to some people about Pat and Janelle Burton because, Janelle had bred a little bit before she married Pat. Pat had been breeding, but together they've bred for way more wins together than they ever had apart. So it just made sense to put them together. Of course, that changes the list significantly because they moved all the way up to 7th place. Of course, all these halter horses that are winning right now, year after year, they've been producing great halter horses and performance winners too. As you can tell, they have already 64 performance wins, but 78 halter wins marks them second next to Gene Carr and the Carr Family Ranch. So that's quite a number there, 78. But they're in 7th place with 142, and then for some unknown reason, there's a large gap there. There was with Patrick's, and then to Rogers, 147, now 142, all the way down to 115. So 115 is Dean and Jan Rogers, of course, the Gold Prince ponies in Iowa, and they've always did well with halter and performance. And then Art and Rocky Jones, the Caddos people from Oklahoma, and then Jan Jones Nolan, their daughter. Of course, she still rides Caddo Clark a few spot. I'm sure you've seen them competing in the adult classes. So that's who's in 9th place. Then rounding out the top 10 is a tie between two Iowa breeders, the Dykstras, which is the Dutch POAs. And they hit 100 performance wins this year, so 111 total. And then Howard and Wanda Victor. Of course, Howard passed away fairly young in like 1990 or 91. And Wanda kept breeding for many years by herself with Plauditz Crusader and several of his offspring. So they've done well. A lot of the Plauditz horses was theirs and different horses like that. And they had high views back in the day. Anyway, they're tied with 111. Then, of course, the Katzenbergers, there's a bunch of them in the Hall of Fame, which they should be. Art Schoenfeld started it, and then Judy was one of his daughters that carried on. They have 108 wins. Jackie Guthrie moved up to be the 13th person to have 100 wins. She has 105.5 wins. Of course, she has a lot of halter wins and performance, about split there. Jackie likes her halter horses, and that's cool. That's cool too. So there I am. Hello. So anyway, let me scroll this way. Can everybody still see? Let's see. So I'm skipping our family here. I won't do that. But in 14th place, we got knocked down because of the Burton combination and Jackie's wins this year. That knocked us down to 14th place. We got as high as 7th place. Of course, the Crisco Kid is a big one for us, but we've also had other winners, counting a Grand Champion Stallion and stuff like that. So, we're there. I'm honored to be my family be right near, of course, Jackie now. Jackie's always been a big mentor to me and friend, and so was Ray Peets. We lost Ray Peets a long time ago, but that's his daughter, Renee Toff there. She bred for some of the Driftwoods, but in Spencer, Iowa is the Peets family. They were, and they have 100 wins. So they round out the top 15 and the top 100. So if any more of the pals win that were bred by the Kennedys, Bunny and John, they're going to be the next one possibly to hit that 100 mark. They've been sitting at 97 for a while. They didn't pick up any this year, but you recognize quite a few names on there, like the Chestnuts are there, Spencer Livestock, of course. Rosalind's watching tonight. That's her family. They have a lot of wins. Pretty good balance there. You want to kind of see, not that it's a bad thing if you have 50 and 50 or if you have 10 and 10, but that doesn't mean balance. I know you'd think it would be, but just think there's 8 days at the Congress and only one's halter. So you want to see, even though a grand champion can pick up 3 wins, you still want to see a lot more performance wins for total balance. But there's nothing wrong with it. If somebody has 100 halter wins and 2 performance wins, they still were breeding for some good looking POAs, right? Or if somebody has 1 or 2 halter wins and 70 performance wins, well, their stuff just rode real well. So we're not going to knock it either way. But I usually say 4 times. So let's say you have 10 halter wins, you should have at least 40 performance wins to be totally balanced or close. Like Spencer's are very balanced. They're 10 and 53. That's pretty balanced. Murfeld's, of course, we all know Doug showed their own babies and their own halter horses. They created a lot of those wins for themselves, which was good. They were very good exhibitors and conditioners. So they won more halter wins in performance. Arbuckles, that's skewed there because, of course, that's Shoto. They're the breeders of Shoto, so he won 54 alone, all in performance. So Leo and Leanne, if you do those numbers, that's pretty balanced there. Of course, Dave Morris is the 2Ds people. We lost Dave and Bonnie lately, last couple of years. So just rounding out this list here, some of these. Leonard Lewis Futurity was for years. Sue Bagwell, the Bagwell family from Broken Arrow, they got in it because the sale was held at the Tulsa State Fair, and they happened to be there, and that's how they got into POAs with John Anderson's JK Supreme Scooter. Melissa Slayton, of course, she's the breeder of RPRs, Impulsive Superman, and quite a few others too. But he's getting a lot of wins for a stallion. He's probably right up there. He's probably going to be the leading stallion to win classes eventually because he's not done yet. He might just be getting started, really, as a teenager. He might pick up a lot more wins. M. Gardner, that's the Gardner family, Rock and Y, RY's out in Utah. They always have good-looking POAs, and Jordan does a great job conditioning his POAs. Astons, the Bishops from Utah, a little older family. We just lost Marlene Borjan lately. Mark Borjan's mother, she bred some nice looking POAs. Norm Stevenson was the Dragonins. And then this year, getting on the first page, we're only going to show the first page tonight. But the Pony Farm, I couldn't fit in the Pony Farm. Sorry, Jess and Susie and Barb. But I was able to put the J, so I had the Pony Farm / Drishkata, and it was right bumping up against, there was no break between the A and the I. So I did get that. Was able, when I took the word the out, to put J in there. So, but anyway, that's some good numbers too, 8.5. If you got any questions about the half, contact me. I'll explain that to you. You can have that in halter and performance. Another thing I want to talk about tonight is, and I talked to a couple people about this too, but we have some people now that are breeding together, like Kate and Sukri. They've bred for champions together, but they've also bred for horses apart and that have won. And then Tammy Verzi has some that have won that she's the breeder of. And of course, Zoms have some that have won by themselves, the Z's, and that number is going to keep going up. They're on this list. Like the mare that won, causing some chaos. She has 7 wins now in halter. Well, right now I have them as another group. I have them down as 7 wins. And then, of course, there's the Zoms. They have some wins, and then Verzi's on there. So they're on there 2 different times. So I may eventually split that up, like give them a half a win each, because that number doesn't help them for their total numbers, and really it should. Just because they partnered with somebody probably shouldn't hurt them. So if you guys have opinions on that, you can always instant message me. I'm easy to get a hold of, or you can email me or text me or call me. Or swing by Jackson's and visit if you're in town. So it's okay, just write the Pony Farm. Just, I think your name should be on there too, Jess. Nothing against Barb and Susie, but you're holding the flag right now. You're running with it right now. So you guys have done a good job, and you guys have been around for a long time. I remember Jess when she was a teenager, so I'm sure she's sick of hearing that from people. But people say they remember me. They can't believe I have gray hair now because they remember me as a kid from the 80s. So, but anyway, yep, that rounds out the top 39. If I put I'll just give you a little hint here. I'll show you. Go back to that screen. And if I show you why the top 40 isn't on the first page, it's because we have a tie, 45.5 3 times. Schoenfeld, Sharping Brothers, and Ziegler all have 45.5. So that would get rough splitting those up. So it's nice to start the second page with that. So the Pony Farm had a big show this year. They were the #1 breeder of how I count numbers this year with 15. So actually the Dammons had 15 too. So they were tied because they had 1 in confirmation. So in ranch confirmation, Dammons did, and then 14 in performance. And the Pony Farm had 1 in halter and 14 in performance as well. So kind of cool numbers. So what did Libby put? Pretty proud of my mamas for getting on the list this year, just the beginning. Yeah, and she got in the list in a big way. Let's mention her, Libby, since you said something. Let's see how many wins Andring picked up. On my list, I think it's about 4, the way I count numbers. So let's see here. Yep, 1 and 3. So again, that's the way I count it. I don't count like lead line games. I don't count stake classes. Some of the futurity classes, most of the futurity classes don't count. And this is the only show that counts. The International Futurity and Select Sire doesn't count in this. It's just this one here. So, all right, before I put you guys to sleep, let's move over to the stallions. And, we'll still talk about the breeders a little bit, because off of these lists, you can create all kinds of lists. So, of course, we have the top 10 breeders. So this isn't just from this year, of course. This is from all time, from 1959 to now. Hopefully you can see that. Let me enlarge this a little bit. I know sometimes it's hard to see on here. Let's see if we go to 150. Hopefully that helps you. Okay, so top 10 halter breeders. So you have the Carr Family Ranch is number one, a commanding lead there with 97 and a half. And then Pat and Janelle Burton was 78. And then you go down the list. You guys can read it, but it goes down a little bit, 60, 55 and a half, all the way down to 26. So Suncrest and Rutledges, remember the Rutledges ponies, they were good-looking POAs back in the day, always had long necks. He bred a lot of quarter mares into his breeding program, so and they rode like crazy too. So he's still in the top 10, tied with the Kennedys, which is the Pal ponies, and the Suncrest. So there's some famous breeders down there. We probably should put Rutledge in the Hall of Fame. Somebody should nominate him, but I don't know if there's anybody around to receive it because Quincy Rutledge passed away a long time ago. So there again, the Murfelds were always halter breeders and halter showers. A lot of these people, if you notice, they help themselves too. They either had trainers helping them or they showed, just like the Gardners there. Jordan basically is a trainer in his own right. You know, he's one of the great conditioners in our breed, and he is a POA kid that grew up in POAs, and then he's still helping raising POAs with his family, so that's cool to see. And a lot of other people like the Kennedys showed a lot of their own horses. Rogers showed a lot of their horses. I believe Takapa Gold picked up 10 wins by himself trying to be a grand over the years, so Grand Stallion. So, and then we go to the top 10 performance, if you can see that here on the list. So here's the top 10. Of course, Steels, they did get bumped off the top spot for overall, but they still are the top performance breeder with 183. That's likely to change as the Silver Kid babies bred by Dammons are still winning a lot. So they're knocking on the door there with 175. Puffenberger's still there. He picked up wins too this year with Salty Diamond Chip. And then there you go again, the Suncrest, the Dutch ponies with Dykstra, Doc, Nemmers, and then the Caddos, the JN, Rourke's POAs, the Santees with the Cars, and then Howard and Wanda Victor. So Carr's the number one halter breeder, and they're tied for 10th in performance. So whenever you're the number one halter breeder and you've bred 90 performance wins, that's a job well done for sure, and that's why they're so high on the main list, number 3 overall on the list. So, all right, let's go to a blank page. No, let's go to the studs, to the sires. Is everybody having a good time tonight? Am I boring everybody? Again, I want to thank all the kids and congratulate all the kids and adults, all the trainers, all the stable owners, and then the breeders of all these great POAs that did so well again this year. If it wasn't for the families traveling down the road, spending the money and buying these ponies, and their kids and adults working so hard, going to trainers or even stables and paying all the bills and stuff, none of these numbers would happen, so they wouldn't be here. So again, thank you to all the dedicated people that work so hard doing this. So okay, we're gonna blow this up to 125. So here is the sires, and Gay from Australia just put a face on there. Of course, Tracy's loving this because she likes the POA statistics like me. So I got to tell you a quick story anecdote here. When I went to college, I took a statistics class because I was into statistics so much, and I thought I'd really like it. Not the same thing. I didn't do well in that class. Anyway, here we go with the sires list. And, you know, these are like 20 pages long, and there's 30 some on a page, so you can do the math. Again, the sires, you can do all kinds of breakdowns, and you can make all kinds of lists with these. You can go different prefixes, you can go quarter horses and amps, and I'll show you the quarter horse list tonight, quarter horse stallions that are on this list. But the Silver Kid's running away with things. I mean, the only one that's coming up to challenge him at all is Chocolatey, and it's probably going to be rough. Nothing against Chocolatey. He's done great, and he's third all time. I mean, he's the top Appaloosa ever to sire POAs. That's saying a lot. So he's number one in that category. And then he's number 3. Plus, he's still pretty young. I mean, I know he's getting older, but for this list, he's pretty young. A lot of these horses on the first page have passed. So, but the Silver Kid for a long time, you know, tough plot. Chief Little Britches was number 1. I'm jumping around a little bit, but Chief Little Britches was number 1 when I created this list, just like Puffenberger was the number 1 breeder. And then Tough Plotted surpassed Chief Little Britches. He was number one for a lot of years. Then Kiddo Tough passed Tough Plotted, and for a while it was 1-2. Kiddo Tough, Tough Plotted, and Paper Tiger was 1-2-3. And then all of a sudden, here come the Silver Kid, and he went by. It took him a while, but not too long. He was clipping at 10, 12 a year. Sometimes he had 18 or 20 a year wins, and he surpassed his granddad, Kiddo Tough. So now they're 1-2, grandson and grandsire there. And then Chocolatey, you know, the just brilliant career he's had as a sire and as a show horse. Doc Nemers was the first person to breed him. Of course, Lindsay is helping him now in POAs, and he's got a lot of great POAs out there. Tough Plotted, still respectable for a horse that's been gone a long time. He's a 1980 model Tough Plotted. So First Impulse is young on this list. I know he's passed away, but still in these numbers, he's fairly young, born in the 90s. He's actually younger than the Silver Kid, who was born in 95. So First Impulse and Leo and Leanne Hawk did an amazing job with him, an own son of A Sudden Impulse. He's right up there. You see all those performance wins, 86 wins. Chief Little Britches, respectable for a horse born in 1960, died in 1990 out in Cherokee, Oklahoma. He did well, 89.5. You got to remember, they didn't have as many classes back then. Not at all as many classes. So not even as many halter classes now, because now you're adding youth classes. So I never thought that'd change. And then now you have ranch confirmation, and then lunge line and all the trail classes, and then 45 and over and adult, non-pro, and all that. So we got a lot more opportunities for the breeders and the sires now. So I'm a Silver Royals on there pretty much because of HMH, Hank Frieder, of course, Mackenzie's great mare, Sox. She won a lot of those classes, and then some of her full siblings were too on there. Santee Cody was the cornerstone of the Pal Ponies. Kiddo Bounce, you know, got a late start, spotted 10 years of his life before he really had a registered POA, and Jackie got him and took off. The JBJs with him. Of course, that 4-time grand champion mare doesn't hurt anything because that's 16 wins right there of his 37.5 wins, but he also has 42 performance wins. He had a good show this year as a sire. Gold Prince was up there in the top, probably 5 at one point. You know, again, he died at a young age, about 14. He died in 89. And J.K. Supreme Scooter, again, that's the Riverbend Ranch RBRs, the Bagwells. So you still see some RBRs showing. And like Willie Boy is showing in some of those, and he's a grandson actually of Scooter. So RY Major Equity was a good show horse in his own right, and then he's turned out to be a good sire. Again, Dutch Dykstra's had leased him and had him, so he had some good, like Dutch Daytona, I believe. Doc's Rough and Zip, the Shackletons from Iowa's stallion, older few spot stallion. He's the number one Doc's sire now is Doc's Rough and Zip, and of course he's a son of Doc's Rough and Tough, and he's on this list too. He's number 3 of the Doc stallions, but a lot of those wins are from Janelle and Pat Burton. Salty 3 Bars, he had Tudor Bars was his after he died. Tudor Bars was born, and Ladies Warrior used to be up higher on the list. LBL All the Rage is coming on. That's Spencer's App Stallion. He's doing well as a sire. And then, of course, Crusader and Avatar are going down a little bit because they haven't sired in a while. TMD's Two-Eyed Rawhide, he has quite a few winners, but Superman, Manny from Jess, is his main driver there. And then Windridge Sundance, who is he, you ask? Tracy might know this. Jeremy knows this for sure if he's watching, but he's the sire of the Kansas Gelding from the Denny's, Shoto. And Shoto was the number 1 winner for a long time with 54 wins. So just going down the list here, Cavalcade, JN Goes to Gold, of course the JN horses, great performance horses. Series Silver Prince started the whole silver line. He's the grandsire of Avatar. We did a whole podcast, couple podcasts on that. There's The Sudden Impulse. He rode on, his sire's A Sudden Impulse's coattails a little bit, but he did a great job with it in POAs. Had a lot of good POAs, a lot of the Suddens. But then, of course, he was competing against his half brother, First Impulse, too. So Country Coosa is now your number. He has been for a couple years, but your number one quarter horse as a POA sire. He was owned by a POA family. Was actually bred by a POA family, I believe, Dave and Bonnie Morris. So my family bred to him. Some of those wins came from us, Nick and Jack, but a lot of them came from the Morrises, the 2Ds. Rojo won again this year, Coosa Rojo. He won a couple classes. So with the kid from Mankato, Minnesota, I believe. So, and then there's some more Doc's. Doc's toughest yet. Doc's rough and tough. And then Monty's Award was the number one app for a while. Of course, you have Gold Prince is up here, but he was hard shipped. So as a POA, but he was an Appaloosa as well. But Monty's Award's been passed now by a couple other Appaloosas. Again, Chocolatey for sure, and then All the Rage. CHR's Tiger's Tough Eagle. Doc had him for a while. Then the Wills, he's a sire of some of the good Wills performance horses. Brad Wilson. There's Tough Dude. Salty Gotta Look, hardship POA. He's still there right near Double Tough. Again, Double Tough couldn't breed the big quarter mares or the horse mares. He had to breed littler pony mares because he was a hardship POA. He had a pony mom who was about, POA size, and then an app dad. So he was just a horse pony cross that they hardship. So they didn't want to breed him to horse back then when it was 54 inches. Another Doc's in there. And then let's see, I'm a Few Spot Dream has made it onto the top. And there we go again. I do that, instead of saying 39, 40, 41, I just go 39 3 times if it's a tie. So you have to have 41 wins now to get on the first page. People that know my gray book back in the day, Pat Burton knew that. A lot of people knew about me carrying my gray book around like a trapper keeper, like a kid from the 80s with a trapper keeper. But anyway, all these lists were stored in there. Some of them were handwritten at first and then with a typewriter. And so the first page is known, and then the top of the second page, or if you're on the third page or the fifth page. If you're on the fifth page and picked up some wins this year, that means you're probably an up-and-comer. You're coming on, and you're maybe going to be on the second or first page someday. So, and then there's the top of the second page. So some of the stallions fell down a little bit. White Lighting fell down, but there's some coming up, like Salty Stole the Look has got 36. He's coming up. He's the number one. Salty TX's Chippin' Array was bred by Pat Burton and Lynn Puffenbarger, so he just doesn't carry the Salty. There's Santee Noches. He went up this year. So anyway, we don't want to show too much tonight. And keep in mind, again, these are trademarks, so Liberty Silver's last full crop is only 2 years old. I think you might see some crazy numbers on this list. Yeah, he could hit 400 wins. I know that sounds crazy, but we're talking about the Silver Kid here. Hopefully you can see this list, but he's got 280 now. I mean, if that one horse that won this year continues to win 10 or 14 classes a year, I mean, right there. And then there's some that ain't even broke out, just like she's saying. They're 2 now. When they're 10, what are they going to do? So when I'm an old man, watch it, I'm not an old man yet, but when I'm an old man someday, I mean, somebody's got to take these lists over. But there could be some cool numbers, like you say. And it's going to be hard to catch the Silver Kid for sure, because he just had so many. Chocolate's trying his darndest. He's probably going to catch my Kiddo Tough, and that's all right too. It's going to be a sad day when I see Kiddo go down to third. He'll probably stay third for a long time, though. Maybe in my lifetime. Somebody might come up and get him. Rough and Zip's getting older too, but there's still frozen semen on him. So Rough and Zip could have a lot of winners yet. So some of the horses that won this year from him could continue to win, of course. So from this main list, we can pull off a lot of things, just like we did with the breeders list. So we can do the top 10 halter and top 10 performance. Let me blow this up a little bit. So again, Gene Carr's cornerstone in the POAs for a long time. The the kind of the foundation of the modern Santee, of course, was Tough Plotted. A lot of his success is from Gene Carr and the mares he put on him, but he was a good sire. He stood grand as a 6-year-old at the International Show in '86. So Tough Plotted's number 1 in halter as a sire, and then that's his dad. Gold Prince is number 2. Then you got some newer entries here. Doc's Rough and Zip and Kiddo Bounce. So a Kiddo Tough grandson and a Kiddo Tough son are up there in halter, 3rd and 4th, and Double Tough has slipped down to 5th. He was, number 1 for a while, and then he went to 2, and then he went to 3, and now he's 5th. Albie All the Rage is it right up there, and then there's Kiddo Tough, not really known as a halter horse, but he sired a lot of pretty horses like the Crimson Kid, and of course Crisco Kid won junior champion as a 2-year-old gelding. Rough and Tough won grand a couple times, so Kiddo's got some wins there. And then Cody with the Pals and Chocolatey. When a lot of people breed to your stuff and breed good mares, it doesn't matter if you're a performance sire or not. You can get halter wins too, because again, they're pretty looking, good moving horses. So he's tied with Quivera Yoka Chief for 9th place there. They round out the top 10. Quivera Yoka Chief, of course, was a Rutledge herd sire down in Texas. So performance, of course, your Silver Kid's not going to be on any leading halter list, but there he is, crushing it in performance again, 269. And there's his granddad is 2nd in performance, Kiddo. There's only a couple sires on both lists, Chocolatey is and Kiddo is. And then Paper Tiger, First Impulse, I'm a Silver Royal. Chief Little Britches is still on there. Tough Plotted is on both lists, of course. And then RY Major Equity and Salty 3 bars. Now let's show this quarter horse list here. Now, Breeding 101, if I ever did a speech or something like at the convention, or the banquet or whatever we call it nowadays, about breeding and stuff and about statistics and lists, Breeding 101 still to this day is breed a few spot stallion to a quarter horse mare. We all know that, but we've evolved from that. We can do a lot of other things than that, but a lot of people still breed the opposite way and breed to a quarter horse stallion, because that's what you see. You see them out showing, or you see them in the magazine, or now on social media. They have the airbrush photos that are getting promoted. They have the cool names, the titles. So we still have a lot of people breeding to, more than ever, really breeding to quarter horse stallions. And with that said, here's this list. There's 90. Actually, I got to update that. There's more than 90 now because a couple were new this year. So we did have some famous names join this quarter horse list. So what I mean by the quarter horse list is that's registered quarter horse stallions that were bred to POA mares and their foals won at the International Show or the Congress. So like Country Kusa, his foals have won the most. Let me blow this up a little bit for you too. Boom, that's a little better. So, he had quite a few 2Ds that won. And then, of course, like I said, Nickajack, that I was a breeder of, he won quite a few for him. Krog Star, all those wins is one horse. That's Black Swan House is for Krog Star. Bar None 2, does somebody know who his winner was? A real famous POA gaming machine. That was Powwow Zip Bars, was Bar None 2's 30s wins. The Realist, of course, was owned by Pat Burton. He was an own son of Impressive, and then a Zippo Pat Bars grandson. He's up there pretty high on the list. And then Double L's Dickens was used in a POA program. So some of these horses here were used in POA programs. They were standing at stud. That was the Straw Ponies, and Jackie Guthrie used Double L Dickens too. And Jan and Fred Bruner from Fall Creek, Wisconsin is who had him. And of course, back in the day, his horses were tough to beat in pleasure classes. Leo's Gold Peppy, Anson's from Georgia, put him on the map. And then Piney Bar. Does anybody know the one POA that won all those classes for Piney Bar? And that was Salty Little Britches. Leonard Lewis and I got in a fight when I was about 10, 11 years old. He said Salty Little Britches was bred by Chief Little Britches, and it kind of became a big deal. And I said, no, he's a grandson. And he was. He's a grandson. Of Of course, back then I didn't know to shut my mouth. I should have just walked away. But I was right because I had done the research and it just stuck in my little brain. But anyway, Piney Bar is the sire of Salty Little Britches, the famous POA that won a lot of riding classes. Hot Fudge Chip, we seen his mare. Why he's on the list up there is because of SLS. Dreams Come True, bred by Shannon Sucre. Of course, we seen one of the Kate boys riding her tonight in the picture. Thank them again for being a sponsor. So 22.5 wins from that mare puts him right up in the top there of Corridor Stallions. Kissing the Girls. He's had quite a few winners. He had one again this year that won quite a bit. The Heartbreaker made him some good performance wins there, almost doubled his numbers. A Sudden Zippo was bred by a POA family. He was bred by Jan and Dean Rogers. Of course, he's an own son of A Sudden Impulse. So, and then we can go down this list. Spanish Array was used by Lynn Puffenbarger, of course, and by some other people too, Norm Stevenson. But the guy that won all these wins with them was bred by Puffenbarger. So, but anyway, you can take a look at this list a little bit. And if you buy these lists, this list comes with it. So I'm not trying to do a commercial tonight. I know Tracy asked, and that's fine, Tracy, about how you can get these, and I might show it here in a minute. But somebody already paid for updates this year that they'd bought last year, and they sent me $30 this year for updates. I can bring these to you at the Futurity, or I can mail them, or I can just send them email. We take Venmo, and if you're interested in these, they are available. Like I say, the quarter horse list is just included with the main list. So I don't know if I've updated this. Let's go down and see. So again, if you can see this here, you can have like the JBJs, the RYs, the Damon family, the Doc sires, Rogers, Santee sires. Let's take a real quick look at that. Look at all the Santees that have sired winners. All these have went on to sire winners, a whole page. And then there's a reference for the Carr Family Ranch stallions they've used that have sired winners. But all these here were bred by the Carr family. And of course, Snow just picked up some more wins again this year, and he's up there in second place now on the Santee list, and Cody's number one on that list. So you can ask for one of the prefix pages, and you can ask for a state list, the state you're in, and then it comes with the breeders, the sires, the top 10, and the quarter horse list. That's what it comes with. So Grand Champions of Sires, a cool list. Selling leading sires. Here we go. All right, so 10 list package is $30 digital or $35 for paper copies, which is pretty cheap, really, because I got to sit there and print them all out. But the digital list is cool. I can send that to you. It includes the breeders, the sires, the top 10 breeders, top 10 sires, AQHA sires. I'm not sure if I got the app sires in there anymore, but Grand Champion stallions and sires, 2 states of your choice and 1 prefix of your choice. And I just showed you the ones I have there. So, and you can Venmo. So, and then there's an optional thing too. If you want all the list and everything, there's a way bigger package than $30 if you want that. But anyway, let's go back to the Kate kids there. Look at some nice POA mares and 2 handsome looking young Texans there, Cole and Landon. The Kate kids are always going to be well mounted, I can tell you that. Just like Ryan usually don't lead in a bad looking halter horse. His kids, him and Stephanie's kids, are not going to ride bad looking POAs. So let's look at their pictures again real quick. There's Breaking All the Rules. He'll probably be available down the road for somebody. If you guys are looking for a top prospect, contact Ryan or Shannon. Like I say, they don't breed just to breed, just to see spots hit the ground. They breed to go win at the big shows. So, all right, let's check the comments out here. I expect Austin's Fancy Colt will make this list someday. Yep, and Austin's are already on there. I expect, Autumn's Fancy Colt. Okay, Autumn's, yeah. Cowboy won this year, so he won as a 2-year-old, if that's who you're talking about. Gay English, we're not allowed horse breeding in Australia for that reason. Okay. All right, everybody, for the nice comments. And again, I don't want to take anything away showing all these lists to like these two kids in this picture and all the hardworking boys and girls and adults, men and women, all the trainers, all the promoters and people that come to the show. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the people that helped put on this show. Of course, my fellow board member, Alan Killian, works countless hours to help put on this show. I mean, he turns his life upside down pretty much getting ready for the show, and it's more than just the 9 or 10 days or 11 days that he's there. It's an 8-day show, but you know, the directors are there a couple days ahead of time, and he's a lot more than the director to this show. He is the show chair. So, and then of course he has the Broke Girls, Michelle and her team. They do a tremendous job. As you've seen, if you want a professional show, you need professional people, so they bring in people and run that show very fluently in Tulsa, I believe. Lindsay does a lot of work. You know, she's on the board and she's a part-time employee at the club, and she does a lot of work at the show as well and makes sure the computer program and the show program is running smooth. The board for making their decisions. Speaking of that, we're going to have a board meeting tomorrow night, just a teleconference meeting between the board, and we're going to be talking to a member of the Tulsa Expo because we have voted to be in Tulsa again for 2026. It was only option for Tulsa was 1 year, and we voted on that, but now we got to come up with the dates. We have to work with Tulsa on that, so that's what tomorrow night's meeting is about. So keep watching the socials for that, because you'll be hearing what happened there. By tomorrow night, we should be able to tell you the dates it's going to be. So, of course, the Shingletons, they work so hard in Tulsa all the time. They're there. I don't think they've missed a Congress since 2000. So that would be 25, 26 years of Congresses. They've been at every one, international, and then it changed to Congress. So that's a pretty cool number there too. So we'll be talking to them in 2 weeks. Next week we'll be talking to the two Tracys, Ryan Kate, Terry Thorson, and hopefully Darren Schaefer, if he gets back with me. I've sent him a couple emails. I don't have a phone number for him. So if somebody can get a hold of Darren, tell him get a hold of Ken ASAP, because I want to talk to him next week. So keep it fair and talk to everybody. So that'll be a cool episode next week. Again, Riverstone Vet and the Kate family from Texas is the sponsors next week. Hoof Solutions is a sponsor 2 weeks from now for the Shingletons. So thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. Thanks for all the comments. Let's scroll over here and see if I missed any comments. Thanks, Terry. Thank you, Liesel. Liesel's one of our great exhibitors, too. When she leads in a horse, I always kind of perk up. You know, there's certain people over the years that come in, and, you know, she's one of them. So Kim from Michigan, there's people like that. Not taken away from anybody else, but you guys know what I mean. You're sitting there talking to a buddy, or you're looking at pictures of somebody's breeding program. Oh, this is my few spot colt out of Tootsie this year, you know, and you're looking, all of a sudden you look up because you see that one exhibitor. And in the performance classes is the same way. So, all right. Thank you, Roz. Thank you, everybody that watched tonight. Tune in next week. We don't get too political on this show, but you know, we're going to keep it fair. Going to be a set of questions for everybody. I'm going to call everybody that is available. Hopefully all 5's available, and we're just going to get to know them a little better, and I'm going to ask them some questions. Maybe I'll give them some tough questions. What do you guys think? So hopefully tune in next week for that. And if you guys want certain questions asked, send me a message, a private message, and maybe I'll put it on my list for next week. Thanks again to Kate for the Kate family for sponsoring tonight. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy the song.